Hi, I'm Pamela Bakewell, Chief Advisor to the Chairman for the Los Angeles Sentinel, and I'm one of your hosts for a new podcast series in partnership with Cedars-Sinai. In this podcast, we discuss health education and ways to improve your health and your overall well-being. On today's episode, we'll be talking about aging powerfully and gracefully. And I have two Cedars-Sinai experts to answer all of our questions. Welcome to our podcast with Cedars-Sinai. We'd like to have our guests introduce themselves because I don't want to mess this one up. I want you to tell us who you are and what you do for Cedars-Sinai.
Well, thank you so much for having us. It's really our honor to be here. My name is Dr. Sonia Rosen. I'm a geriatrician. I'm the Chief of Geriatrics at Cedars-Sinai.
Excellent.
And I'm Dr. Zaldi Tan, and I'm the Director of the Memory and Healthy Aging Program in the Department of Neurology at Cedars-Sinai. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Well, this really makes a lot of sense because we're going to be talking about aging powerfully and gracefully, which is a passion topic of mine. I think I said to you off camera that, I really want people to embrace aging differently. I know we use the term old, and the term old sometimes can really make someone feel differently than they should. Feeling vibrant is, I think, a mindset. This is just my personal feelings. And I really pushed for this topic. So having you two here really makes me excited because I have one question to start with because I think this will help. And that is, what does aging powerfully and gracefully mean to you from a medical perspective? And how can we redefine aging beyond just the absence of disease? And this is before we get into your specific topics. But what does it mean to you?
So I think that aging powerfully and gracefully really means different things to different people. It is, what matters most to each individual. And so I think first and foremost, it's really important to sort of not generalize that everybody should age in the same way or, participate in certain activities as part of healthy aging, but rather each individual defines for them what matters most, what's most meaningful, what brings them the greatest joy and purpose in their own lives every day and as they get older.
And I think it's difficult when people have just been working so long, and so it's like, okay, now what? So what do you have to say about that, Dr. Tan?
For sure. So there's two things there, right? Power and grace. And I think those are two different things, but they complement each other. So power is knowing who you are and knowing how you will age in the future based on what you know about your parents, about your peers. And knowledge is power, right? So a podcast like this will actually give you power to take control of your health and your future. And grace is really about making sure that if you live a good long life, that you enjoy it, and that you are connected to your community, connected to your family, and you remain relevant and purposeful. So I think those are two really powerful words, and I think we should all be living by it.
Before we go any further with questions, can you tell me a little bit, what's the difference between your practices? Because you both do something different. We can generalize and think we know what you do, but you have to tell us, what is your practice like and what is your practice like? Dr. Rosen, we'll start with you.
So as the Chief of Geriatric Medicine at Cedars-Sinai, I lead our clinical programs in geriatrics. So geriatric medicine is the physician specialty in caring for older people, typically over 65. That's my primary role at Cedars-Sinai.
Oh, okay, exciting. And what made you choose to go into that profession?
Oh, I love that question. So I was always very close to my grandparents. So I spent every summer with my grandparents in Finland. Actually, I was born in Finland.
Exciting.
Fun fact.
All right.
And I was also very close to my American grandmother. So I think I always gravitated towards older people. I was very comfortable with older people. I had decided in high school to become a doctor. And at that time, Cedars-Sinai had a geriatric unit. And I was a teen volunteer. We called ourselves Candy Stripers back then.
I was a candy striper, just so you know.
There you go. And I went to Fairfax High School, and I was a candy striper at Cedars-Sinai, and I loved the geriatric unit. It was so much fun for me, and I really felt very at home. But I didn't really know anything about the formal field of geriatric medicine at that point, obviously. And so when I went to medical school, in medical school at that time, you had one summer off between first and second year, and I was in the geriatric student interest group, and I learned about this opportunity to do research in aging. And I was in Chicago at the University of Chicago Pritzker, and was looking to come home for the summer in Los Angeles, and I did that summer in research at UCLA and worked for Dr. David Rubin, who was my mentor, was the chief of geriatrics at UCLA. And really that was my formal introduction to the field of geriatric medicine. And I think what I loved most about it, well, it was really multifactorial. I just loved the patients. What I would witness was how rich the experiences were that we had with our patients, with the geriatricians. Learning about their life stories all day long just was the greatest privilege. It was so incredibly exciting.
History lessons every day.
Lessons every day.
Yeah.
And then also how much they loved hearing about the geriatricians' lives. It was just this incredible back and forth, just this amazing shared experience. And then from I think I felt like I was with my grandparents all day.
That's pretty cool.
And then I think from a medical standpoint, I found it really very intellectually stimulating and challenging, because caring for older people is actually much more complicated. Older people have an atypical presentation of disease. In addition to internal medicine, there are all of these geriatric syndromes that, as geriatricians, we really have to be able to recognize and treat. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of those today. And so just overall, and I think the third part about that is I found the social determinants of health aspects, the caring for the whole patient, really the multi-complexity of understanding where a patient lives, what their functional status is, how are they going to fill the prescription, do they understand how to take it. All of those things are just as important as prescribing the right medication. And so to me, geriatric medicine was the most fulfilling because I was able to help care for the whole patient. And that's, in a nutshell, why I went into geriatric medicine.
And Dr. Tan, what about you?
So my role at Cedars-Sinai is as director of the Memory and Healthy Aging program. As the name implies, I lead the memory disorders unit at Cedars-Sinai, as well as focusing on healthy aging. Like Dr. Rosen, I'm an aging specialist, but my focus is really the brain and cognition and being able to keep your brain healthy as you get older. I have a clinic at Cedars-Sinai called the Memory and Healthy Aging program that really sees people who are interested in keeping their brain healthy. We see everyone from age 40 years old and above. A lot of them have family histories of Alzheimer's disease or other forms of dementia and really want to do what's best to keep their brains and their bodies healthy. Although I focus on the brain, as you know, Pam, the brain and the body are very much connected, right?
Yes.
So whatever you do for your brain, it's really good for your body, good for your heart. So we talk about exercise, we talk about healthy diet, we talk about maintaining social engagement. All of these things are so important. And what got me interested in this is that in my own family, I have two aunts who already had Alzheimer's disease and had died from the disease. Oh, wow. And I think it is very much a sort of a plague of aging, isn't it? We all want to live longer. We want to live to 100. But what does that mean if you don't have your memories?
Amen.
If you don't know who you are? if you don't
Amen.
recognize your families. So
Amen.
my goal really is to teach people and help people kind of live long but healthy lives,
yes.
and with their memories and their relationships intact. So that's really what drives me, is to keep people healthy for however long that is, and it's different for all of us. But whatever time we have to make sure that that time is spent with good quality, surrounded by loved ones, being able to travel, do your hobbies. Some people want to work till their 80s and 90s, and they should be able to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that can only be done if we are healthy from brain as well as the rest of the body. We need to make sure that we look at the person from a entire body perspective and not just one organ. And I think that's what aging experts like Sonia Rosen and I are doing, is trying to maintain people's health, and we're happy to do that at Cedars-Sinai.
So let me ask you this. So if a person has gone for their annual physical, and we remember those 3 things they tell us to remember in the beginning of our annual physicals, which I hate that part of the physical. I said, then the banana, the this, that. By the end, I'm like, am I going to have Alzheimer's because I don't remember that last one? But I tried. But it's really fun. It's like a test that you're afraid to pass.
Yeah.
No, you're afraid to fail.
Yeah.
What makes someone see you before that to make sure that they have a healthy brain? Not wait until they start, having things that maybe they could have done something about, and what is it that they could do? Look, I'm here to ask questions I want to know. But seriously, what would make someone, get a referral to you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Pam. A lot of people, middle age and beyond, do experience certain changes in their memory, their thinking, going into that room, and it's like, what am I here for?
Yeah.
I knew I was going to come here for something, but I don't remember. That's called memory for intentions, for example. And a lot of times these age-related changes, like remembering that actor that you saw his movie this past weekend, or that restaurant you want to go to, a lot of these are just normal age-related changes. I always tell my patients that just like you can't run a marathon in your 40s and 50s like you did in your 20s, you won't be able to remember things just like you did. It doesn't mean that you become forgetful. It's just that the processes have changed, and you have to adjust your lifestyle and your ways of doing things accordingly. So if you're used to just throwing your phone wherever you want to, and then knowing it and thinking that you'll remember where you had left it, that may not work anymore, right? You probably should be a little bit more organized. Multitasking is something great, and a lot of young people do. But when you get older, it doesn't work so much anymore because your working memory goes. It gets smaller.
Things change.
So that's normal?
That's normal.
That's
Yeah,
normal.
that's
That's
normal.
normal.
And when people
Okay.
experience so-called forgetfulness, I always ask them, in what context? It's like, were you driving, listening to a podcast, and then you missed the freeway exit? Well, that's probably normal because you were distracted. So what makes people see me is when they experience these age-related changes, and they don't know whether this is a sign of early dementia or just part of normal aging. And I can tell you, in the very beginning of this disease, Alzheimer's disease, it's very hard to tell. Very hard to tell. So we go through, you said 3 words. We have 15 words in my clinic. So we
boy.
set a
Okay.
very high bar. And
I'm
it
not
doesn't
coming.
mean that you have to remember all 15 words. There's a normative scale based on your age and your education, etc. So that's what we do, is to make sure. And for a lot of people, we assure them that you're doing fine, but there are things you can do to keep yourself healthy. And exactly, people like you, that I always say you have a very long runway. So you have a lot of things that you can do to keep yourself healthy right now.
Well, you're saying a lot about, I was looking at this question I had for you. Can you explain the difference between normal memory loss due to aging and signs of dementia? I think you just answered that. And it's really, if you want to comment on that, you can, Dr. Rosen.
Well, I think the important distinction is that with dementia, patients have, or people have, functional impairments. So when you have normal age-related memory loss, you can still do what you used to do. it just might take you longer. You might forget a name, but then you'll remember it later. So it's just, you might retrieve it a little bit slower, but you're still able to complete your basic activities of daily living, which are the things you have to do to take care of yourself at home, and your instrumental activities of daily living, which are the more complex tasks like taking your medications, going shopping, getting around town, taking care of your home. When you have dementia, a person starts to have impairments in their function, and that's really the major distinction. And so if you're still able to take care of yourself, you're perhaps a little bit forgetful, but it's not impacting your function, you're probably okay. But it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor if you're noticing issues with memory. You most likely are going to be reassured, but your physician can do a screening test and then refer you to a specialist like a geriatrician or a neurologist for further evaluation if there are any concerns on that initial screening. The other thing that's important to know is there are a lot of other things that can impact memory and how a person performs on a screening test like this. It's not all dementia. And that's why it's important to know, because there are reversible things that can be treated that will improve one's memory, improve one's cognition.
It's interesting. Like what?
Like depression and anxiety. Those play a huge role in memory. If you're anxious and you're not paying attention, you're not going to remember what somebody said to you. If you're hearing impaired and you didn't hear it in the first place, you're not going to remember what someone said to you. And other examples, B12 deficiency, for example, can affect your cognition. And then other diseases like cerebrovascular diseases in the brain, or having had small strokes or insults in the brain, that can also affect cognition. And those are things that are actually treatable, and things where we want to improve risk factors like improving blood pressure, for example, so that a person doesn't have more events like that.
Oh, thanks. So I was going to ask, is Alzheimer's and dementia, is it more prevalent over the years than it has been in the past? Do you find that? Because we hear about it a lot more. And before, I mean, I thought my mother had the greatest memory till the day she closed her eyes, but she had to remember numbers, and she didn't have a phone. I just go to the phone, and we don't really have to exercise our brain that way. So tell me about today versus maybe what used to happen.
Yeah, well, there's definitely increased awareness, Pam. So that's one good thing, is that a lot more people are aware of their brain health, which they should be.
Yeah.
So part of the increased awareness, the perception of the increased number of people getting Alzheimer's disease is increased awareness. There's also primary care doctors who do more screening for early memory loss, so that increases the diagnosis as well. The other thing is that we're all living longer, isn't it? So as you get older, you are more prone to certain age-related conditions, and dementia and memory problems are one of them. So the goal is to live longer, but with your memory and your brain healthy. But that is a challenge sometimes, because in our everyday lives, there's a lot of stress. A lot of people are sleep deprived. There's a lot of temptation to eat foods that are really not good for you. Exercise is going to be hard for some people, and as you know, obesity is prevalent in our country. So there's a lot of these risk factors that over time can accumulate and increase your risk of developing dementia. But there are studies that are being done to basically reduce the risk for dementia through lifestyle interventions, healthy diet, exercise, improving your sleep, lowering stress. And that's really the goal. And I think that should be our goal, as you said, with Aging Powerfully and Gracefully, is to adopt more of these healthy habits as we get older, and shed the ones that we might have been able to get away with when we were younger. That trip to the fast food restaurants, and like spending the entire weekend watching Netflix instead of exercising and taking a walk. Those things are fun and maybe a habit that we've accumulated over our years, but during middle age and beyond, it's really the time to make those changes, positive changes for good health.
I have a good friend, and when she sees this, she and I are the only two that know this, but she's addicted to TikTok, okay? And I keep saying, you got to get out and do more than sit there. And she's really, I mean, I don't see any, decline in her brain health, but, I don't know how to get her off of that TikTok. I mean, she loves it. When we travel, she's on it, and there's a concern that it's just a replacement of television, but it's not doing more. Is that a problem for people to do those things, to get addicted to TikTok in their age?
I'm sure it is. But at any age, right?
Well, that's a good point.
I wouldn't say specific to older people.
Okay. I'm just concerned about, it's like sitting in front of a television, but instead in front of TikTok.
Remember, these
but
are passive.
She might be getting more stimulation than the rest of us.
Well, you have to distinguish like passive stimulation from active stimulation of your brain, right?
Okay.
TikTok, watching TVs and TV and news programs, they could be, stimulating, but it's a passive form of stimulation, right? Especially these apps, they feed you with information based on how much time, how many milliseconds you spend in a video, and they know how to keep you engaged and keep you hooked. But that's definitely a very passive way of stimulating your brain. So instead of TikTok, for your friend, I would say maybe socialize or attend a class in the local community center, or travel, or watch a documentary. Things that are more stimulating, I think, in the long run, would benefit your brain more than passively scrolling through, the death scroll, they say, right?
I'm trying to get her to watch this so she can hear that. I have a question for you, Dr. Rosen. How can caregivers, who are often adult children, best support a loved one with dementia while maintaining their own well-being?
It's very, very difficult. Really, the impact on caregivers can often, affect their own health. So it's very important for them to take time to care for themselves. And there are different ways to do that. I want to turn things over to Dr. Tan, because he leads the caregiver support program at Cedars-Sinai.
Okay. Oh, excellent.
I think it would be good for him to share something about that.
Please.
Thank you, Dr. Rosen. Yes, caregivers have been a passion of mine for many years, because I feel that they're really the unsung heroes. They're the person who, you're seeing a patient, like let's say in our clinic, and they're standing quietly, taking notes, nodding, saying, that's not true, trying to correct, the wrong history that's being given to us. And they really are the ones who really they have such a huge role in their loved one's health and sickness, to be sure. So Dr. Rosen was referencing our dementia care management program. I think caregivers are terrific whether they're taking care of a physical disability or a cognitive disability. But for people with dementia particularly, it's very, very challenging, because they get hallucinations, they can wander. And I always say that my caregivers of my patients sleep with one eye open, because at any time their loved one could fall. At any time they could leave the house because they're confused. They thought they were going to work. So these things are really, really disruptive to a caregiver's health. In fact, there are studies that show that caregivers have a higher risk of dying than people who do not provide care. So those things are really important to know. And as you said about power is knowledge is power. Just knowing what resources are out there in the community that can help them, what programs they're entitled to, I think would be really, really a good start for what we could do for our caregivers who are really making a lot of sacrifices for people that they love.
It really touches home, because we all have family members who've been through things, and there's a younger family member I know who still has to go to work, has to do everything but has to take care of her dad. And, that gets to be very challenging and emotionally, and, they have to take care of their emotional health too.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen where after a parent dies or an older parent,
Mm-hmm.
they go into declining health almost immediately after.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's very, very sad
Yeah,
situation.
that's why we always encourage our caregivers to, even though they are dedicated to caregiving, to take respite, to make sure that they make time for themselves, because you don't want to lose your identity and all your relationships because you're a caregiver, and that is natural tendency. It's like, I don't want to go out with my friends.
Yes.
There's a lot of divorces, for example, that happens while caregiving.
Yeah.
What's the name of the clinic that you had?
So we have, at Cedars-Sinai, we have something called the CARES program, and it's
Okay.
essentially helping caregivers cope with caregiving, providing them with community-based resources that can help them take some of the edge off of caregiving. We work with their primary care doctors or geriatricians like Dr. Rosen and others to make sure that the caregivers are well cared for and are knowledgeable, and that they know what to do to keep themselves and their loved ones healthy.
How does one get involved? Do they just call the CARES program and?
Yeah, they just either
sign up?
call us directly, or they get a referral through their geriatrician or neurologist or primary care doctor to the Cedars-Sinai CARES program. And the other thing worth mentioning is that the Medicare basically has provided a benefit for people who are suffering from dementia to have up to $2,500 per year of respite care. So this is money set aside for Medicare for people who have dementia and who qualify based on their criteria to have $2,500 per year of respite benefit. Can be used for adult daycare, could be used for in-home care, for facility care. So I think it's a valuable resource in addition to the care management and the guidance that most people don't know about. So for people who have taking care of loved ones who have dementia, they should really consider joining the CARES program.
This is a wonderful program, and it's also that Medicare benefit that Dr. Tan is speaking about is fairly new. So a lot of people, I would say most people don't know about it. It's called the GUIDE program through Medicare, and that's delivered at Cedars-Sinai through Dr. Tan's CARES program. So definitely patients who care, people who care for their loved ones with dementia should look into it.
Because we have a partnership with Cedars-Sinai, I'm going to really emphasize that they put that in our newspaper, because we have a lot of seniors. The Sentinel's been around since, we're turning 93 years old next year, 92 years old. So we have a lot of seniors that I think could benefit from all this information. So after today, and they may not be podcast listeners, so we really want to make sure that we put this in the paper, maybe even on a regular basis, that people will know it's out there. Everybody's using their phones though now, so that's a good thing. No matter, I used to say using your phone today is like just keeping the old rotary phone. So everybody pretty much has an iPhone, and you see folks, staying on it. So I really want to get this message out, because I didn't know that you had that kind of program. So I think that's really beneficial.
Yes.
Thank you. So we how much, well, I think you said this too, we talked about stress and sleep and emotional well-being influencing our cognitive health. If we sleep more, are you saying we won't get dementia, we won't do these things? How does that affect us? Either one of you can answer that.
Sleep specifically?
Sleep, it says sleep. Well, my question is sleep, stress, emotional well-being. I'm really a big one on emotional well-being, because some people don't understand depression. I've had this conversation with family members who don't understand other family members who have become depressed. And they go, I just don't get it. Why are they depressed? They have everything. They have all the financial money in the bank, they have good family around them. What is it we can do to get them out of depression? So what can we do as a family? I mean, obviously, emotional well-being is something that we can't define, but that has to really affect seniors who really don't know how to explain that they're in a dark place. So what can we do to help? is there anything that we can do?
Specifically for depression and anxiety?
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing is to share that with your physician. And if your loved one you don't think has that insight to know that's what they're experiencing, go with them. Ask if it's okay to go with them to the appointment and talk about it openly. And your physician can then screen for depression and anxiety and other mood disorders, sort of go from there. But it's really, Dr. Tan was talking about knowledge being power. It's getting information about what's going on. And sometimes it's physical. Sometimes there's physically something wrong, biochemically that's causing those mood issues. Those mood issues can be a sign of something else. So it's really important to look at that as a medical issue. Emotional, it's still medical.
Yes.
And exploring what could be going on. In terms of your first question about wellness, I think all of the things that you mentioned are important. And I'll say a little bit about sleep. People have different sleep requirements, and I find often as people get older, they may have been used to sleeping longer when they were younger. Those sleep requirements actually decrease when we get older.
Oh.
And sometimes there's a perception that a person's not sleeping enough, when in fact, they're probably sleeping 6 to 7 hours, which is really fine. And so sometimes, people are seeking medication so that they can sleep longer, when in fact, it's more of a reset of understanding that sleep requirements are different, as long as you have the energy to get through the day and do the things you want to do. And that's really what it comes down to. If a person's too tired to participate in their daily activities, if it's affecting their mood, then that might be an issue. In terms of other things for wellness, the most important thing for helping to prevent cognitive issues, helping to maintain heart health, brain health, physical mobility, function, which I think is really the most important, is activity and exercise. So exercise would be the one thing that I would say, if there's anything you can do, your friend who's on TikTok, is to exercise. Okay. And by exercise, this is simply walking. If you can walk, you should.
Okay.
I try to walk an hour and a half a day. The goal is 30 to 45 minutes a day. If you can walk, you should. The best thing for you, it actually helps prevent dementia, helps prevent heart disease, and helps keep the whole body flexible. And if you've heard the expression, use it or lose it.
Yes.
So you have to use your body. You have to move to keep that mobility.
Yeah.
If a person is mobility challenged, where walking's not an option, there are a lot of other great opportunities for exercise at Cedars-Sinai. We sponsor classes all throughout the community called the LEAP program. You can call and get enrolled for one of these classes at no cost.
Oh.
And some of these are in chairs. You could do chair exercises. So there's an exercise for everyone, but I would say the most important thing also affecting mood is exercise.
Okay. Do you believe in supplements, or are there any vitamins we can do to affect our brain health? I guess physical health and brain health, but do you recommend any?
So in our memory and health aging program, a lot of our patients come in from other doctors or by themselves doing research. They are on ashwagandha, they're on methylene blue, because they read these books about supplements. What we tell them is that the evidence is thin. A lot of these evidence that are quoted in these books and by these so-called experts are from animal studies.
Oh.
And animals do not get Alzheimer's disease. They are not, the Alzheimer's disease is not part of the diseases that affects animals. But they program these mice to develop the changes, the proteins that develop in people who get Alzheimer's disease. and they test them in mice. So there's a big leap between mouse studies, animal studies in general,
wow.
and human studies. So I caution them that, the way that the animals metabolize these supplements are different from humans, and also the mice probably are not taking 5 or 10 other medications that can
Right,
interact with these supplements.
Okay.
So I tell them to be cautious, especially if they're taking other things like cholesterol lowering medications that can affect your liver. You already know that can affect your liver, and your doctors are monitoring it. If you load up with 2 or 3 other supplements that are not regulated, so you don't know how much of the actual active ingredients are in those pills, and you load them up every day for many years, that could do a number on your liver or your kidney or your heart. So I tell them, certainly the effects are questionable, but they are the safety comes first. So in terms of supplements, a multivitamin is not a bad idea if their diet is less than ideal. Vitamin B12, folic acid are important for your brain health and growth and development.
Yeah.
So those are important things that one should make sure they check if they have these deficiencies. But in terms of the things that are advertised on TV or in your health food
that's
store,
why I asked.
you have to always question where the evidence comes
Yeah.
from, and is this potentially going to hurt me more
Yeah.
than it would benefit me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no evidence for any of those supplements, and they're expensive.
I know. They're definitely expensive.
and they
I've
also-
tried. I've tried them.
Yeah, they're
and then I was like,
expensive.
no, this isn't really.
And they add to pill burden, too. And
They
as a
do.
person
They
is
do.
having more difficulty taking medications if they're impaired,
Yep.
that can be stressful, too. So sometimes just eliminating all of those unnecessary...
And get up and exercise.
Supplements,
Yeah.
yeah.
I get
If I
it.
could add to what Dr. Rosen said about sleep,
Mm-hmm.
I think sleep is really sometimes some of us equate sleep with unconsciousness, right? Because we are unconscious when we're sleeping.
Mhm.
But a lot of people don't realize that sleep is a very active physiologic process. There are stages in sleep. Our brain waves change depending on what stage of sleep we're in. And there's evidence now that when we sleep, that's when we actually clear the toxins, the amyloid and the plaques that develop in the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease. In fact, that's one of the leading theories of why people with poor sleep have higher risk of developing dementia. So when you take alcohol, you take sedatives, you take something that quote unquote knocks you out, you're knocked out, but you're not sleeping from a physiologic sense. So you're not getting the benefit of memory consolidation, clearing the toxins. So definitely sleep is so important. And what I find in my practice is a lot of people either are deprived of sleep, they have 4 hours, 3 hours of sleep, and they feel I'm fine. Now I'm just going to take my coffee and I can function.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't really sleep.
That's not sleep.
That's not sleep. You were unconscious for 3 hours, but you may not be sleeping, right? People who have sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is when your breathing stops because of blockage of the airway.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know that they have sleep apnea. They think they're just snoring, and they thought they were sleeping for 7 to 8 hours, when in fact they were struggling to breathe for 7 or 8 hours.
And
So those things are really important to look at. And then the other thing I want to mention about sleep is that a lot of people develop habits that are not really conducive for sleep.
Like TikTok.
what- and
Yes.
also television all night.
Watching
I wanted
television
to
until
say-
you
until you fall
fall asleep. So scrolling through your phone or your iPad, that blue light is going to shine in your eye. It's going to make your sleep
Yes,
disrupted.
yeah.
So all these things are really important to take note of. We call it sleep hygiene, meaning
Yeah.
preparing yourself for sleeping by lowering down the lights, turning off the devices, and just getting yourself in the mood for sleep, just like anything else.
But you'll notice that with all those things that Dr. Tan just shared, none of them involve taking a medication to
That's
make
true.
you sleep.
That's true. Yeah. And with the television, I was told that your subconscious is really listening to that television. So you're
Yes.
not really sleeping, but turning the lights off are important. It's hard for people to make that change because,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
a lot
better
of
to
people.
watch television in another room.
Mhm.
And then when it's time for bed, you go to bed.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
same thing with reading a book, even. Doing that in another room in a chair, and then the bed is for sleep.
Yeah, it's very hard. Well, we're getting towards the end, but I'd like you to make any final comments you have to our audience because, as I said, I do believe that the LA Sentinel has an audience that doesn't really possibly watch podcasts. We're going to really encourage them to watch this one because we really do think that you have the tools that they probably need and the information. We want people to thrive. We want our senior population to be here as long as God willing for us to be here. And you have tools there at Cedars-Sinai to offer them.
Yes.
So what would you like to say in conclusion?
I think I'm going to reiterate with the pearl of the importance of exercise because everybody can do it in some way. And I think that in my experience, people get overwhelmed with a myriad of health issues, with many different commitments. How can I be healthier? What can I do? Well, there's one single most important thing that one can do, and that is exercise. Exercise will help prevent dementia. Exercise will help prevent falls, which can result in fractures and really catastrophic issues for anyone, especially for an older person. Exercise helps maintain our mobility, thereby helping us to maintain our independence of function. So I would say and a lot of people are very overwhelmed by this idea of exercise because they haven't been athletes. Not all of us have loved to exercise our whole lives. Find something that you like to do that brings you joy. And best thing, the easiest thing is walking. If you can, walk. If you're not comfortable with that, find an exercise class. You can even do them online. But I would say that would be the one thing to try and do today if you're not doing it. And it's never too late to exercise. That's the other part that I wanted to mention. If you start exercising now, you'll reduce your fall risk tomorrow. That's how critical exercise is. It's not about weight loss or reaching a target weight. It's about keeping your body mobile and as healthy as possible.
And most people don't realize that with most health plans now, you can sign up with Silver Sneakers, and it's free.
It's
and
free.
You can go to LA Fitness or any of the other clubs free, and people aren't just looking for resources. So we want to put that out there.
That's such a great point.
Yeah, and it's free. Yeah.
We should all be exercising.
Yes. And your comments to the audience?
So first of all, thank you very much for this partnership between LA Sentinel and Cedars-Sinai. I think this partnership is wonderful because your audience will get to know more about what we do at Cedars-Sinai. We have great primary care physicians who are sensitive to the issues related to aging that we have talked about here. We have specialists in aging like Dr. Rosen and her group in the geriatric medicine that can see people who are more frail or have other age-related issues. And we have programs like ours in the Department of Neurology at Cedars-Sinai where we concentrate on healthy aging and memory that can help people stay healthy. And for those people who are already having memory issues, we have great behavioral neurologists, psychiatrists who can help with some of the behavioral and neurologic changes associated with memory loss. And as I mentioned, we also have the CARES program where we are taking care of the caregivers as we do the patients. So I think those are great things that I hope the people would know. But the other thing I want to mention is that we have great research programs. We're an academic medical center. We have residents. We have medical students rotating through. So we teach the next generation of caregivers, of health professionals at Cedars-Sinai. And we have great research programs on brain health, Alzheimer's disease. So for those people who are interested in knowing more about their brain health and participating in research, we'd love to see you. In fact, we have a study called Diverse BCID. It's a national study that's looking particularly at the brain aging in African Americans and Latinos,
which
are
really
a very
good.
special
Okay.
group because African Americans and Latinos have higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease.
Okay, that was really going to be a question I had that I didn't address. So thank you.
Of
That
course.
is really for people to know. Very important.
And I just
Very.
want to leave with one thing, one thought, is that the healthy person wants 1,000 things. The sick person only wants one thing, and that is their health.
Wow.
So that is really, really important to maintain your health and keep your health at the top of your mind no matter what age you're in.
And here's another question. How do you view aging not as a decline, but as a dynamic, empowered chapter of life?
I think that's such a great question. Aging is so individual. It's so different for each person. There's no reason for anyone to view this as a decline. When we get older, we have so much more wisdom, life experience, and many people continue working as they get older. They're much better at their work as they get older. They're able to impart that wisdom to an expertise to others. Similarly, if you look at it in a family setting, think about hundreds of years ago, civilizations would survive because they had elders that they could look to who had navigated catastrophes and natural catastrophes and crises in the past, and they would have the expertise of this is how we deal with this. It's really the same now. We just don't see it the same because of technology. But really, our older population are sort of masters of living, so to speak. Every day is a blessing.
Amen.
And really that, getting older is magical. And we just really have to sort of seize all of the opportunities, everything that we can do as we get older. I view it as expanding, not limiting, but only getting bigger.
Great answer. Dr. Tan?
I love the analogy that you gave between life and a book, right? And life is essentially a book with many chapters. And what's the best part of the book? What makes you decide whether you love the book or not? It's the ending.
Wow.
Right? How do you end a good life? And how do you make the most of the last few chapters of your life? And that is an individual choice that we all have to make. A lot of people think about life as having three sections of a book, for example. Like childhood is growth and development. You're looking forward to going to college or getting older and getting started with your own life. And then middle age, that thick section of middle age
Yes.
where you have children, you have your career, all that stuff is sort of a blur because you're so busy with your life, right? And during that middle age is when you actually develop some bad habits with regard to your health. Eating unhealthy, not exercising, not sleeping well because you're living life, right? And then the last chapter. And the last chapter, I think, is the most important chapter. And will define your life. What is that life, right? And you have a choice of living healthily, actively, being engaged, being a mentor, and making sure that the next generation is well prepared for the challenges that are in front of them. Or you could just take a cruise and disappear, right? And I think that's really the choice, is really be actively involved in your community, in your family, stay healthy for as long as you can, and make sure you communicate your wishes to your family members, to the next generation. Because I see so many times that sometimes the people that are, their loved ones don't even know what they want in their lives. So I think that's really an important thing to think about the life as chapters, and the last chapter really is what will define your life. So invest in it, keep it as interesting and as exciting as possible, and I think that it defines a good long life.
Thank you. You said something in our conversation about retirement, people seeing it as an ending instead of a beginning, something to that effect. And I like the thought of it being a beginning, which is why I call my new chapter repositioning, because I'm not going anywhere. I'm using my knowledge differently, and I'm just choosing to spend my days and hours a little different, but still contributing. And so your conversation with me has stuck with me. It's the beginning of a great chapter, because it's not the end, and I'm still here. So for that, I'm very grateful to have met both of you guys.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are honored to be here.
We hope you learned something that empowered you to age gracefully, educated you, or simply reminded you that your wellness is non-negotiable. You can follow us on all social platforms at LA Sentinel News. For more in-depth information on today's topic, we have linked some resources in the description below. Take care and power yourself gracefully.